welcome back to the Championship Lowdown podcast. I am joined once again by Ollie. Welcome back to the channel, Ollie.
Hello, everyone.
And we are back for yet another Championship preview. So as always, we will go through our 6 sort of highlight games from this weekend's action and say what we think is going to happen. We'll also have a little run through at the end of the episode on the other games that happen in this week. But before we start, 93% of you who watch our videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you can, please take your time, just hit the button below and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to all of us. But with that being said, Ollie, we will kick it off straight away. And I'm going to go straight to you here, to be honest, because we are starting off on Friday Night Football, which is Middlesbrough against Hull City. Now, obviously, as a Hull fan, I'm wondering where your head's at the minute, because we've seen a lot around you at the minute with some inconsistencies in your game. Obviously, 3 losses in your last 5 games. You also travel to you also host Middlesbrough, I should say, who've only lost once in the last 5. So are you confident, or are you feeling a bit more worried about this one?
I'm fairly confident, I think. I never expected us to go to Stoke and get the win last week. Obviously, on the last week's pod, I alluded to that I was a little bit nervous about the game. And that turned out to be a little bit unjustified in the end, obviously going to Stoke and getting the win there, which was a nice surprise. It was what I liked about that performance at Stoke last week was the grit and the way that we turned it around at half time. And Jurkovic has done that a few times this season, where we found that if there's something not working, thankfully we were still in the game, I might add. If something's not working, he's not scared to change it, and he's not scared to change it drastically. He'll go for it, and he'll go and try and get the win, and it paid off for us at Stoke. And I think we just need to be able to sort of back that up now. I know Middlesbrough's a really tough game, and welcoming them down here this weekend is going to be a real tough one, opening the weekend off, obviously on Friday night. But I've read today that Liam Miller, Ollie McBurney, they could be back in the starting squad. I'm not sure I'd rush them straight back in. I think I would carry on with what we ended the game up with at Stoke, and I'd try and introduce them if needed. Shall we say that? I'd like to see Balumi starting now. He's been eased back in since his second sort of setback, and he came off the bench against Stoke and obviously bagged 2 assists at the weekend. I'd like to see him start. I think it gives us another dimension. It certainly frees Gelhardt up a little bit more, which is key. Scoring goals for fun at the moment. He's one of the Championship's top strikers. So it'll be an interesting tie on Friday night, depending on how we line up, depending on if we let Middlesbrough come at us. But yeah, I'm not sure how Middlesbrough will see this one. I don't know if they'll be confident coming down here, because I think we're a real tough team to read, and I think a lot of that goes down to the fact that we are, sat currently in 9th position in the league with 30 goals scored and 30 against. So we're difficult to call. How do you see it, James?
Yeah, I think I said a lot about Hull, and it's like you have no issue at all scoring goals, but you have a big issue in stopping them. I think, as you just said there, 30-30 is certainly an interesting stat line, to say the least. But I mean, Borough obviously come off a big win at home against Derby. It was a good bounce back for them as well after losing considerably to Coventry at the Riverside the game before. So it's the first away game since that Oxford draw, which they won't be happy with. So they want to sort of put that right. I don't know, as far as your team goes, I think it's a big game in a way for you, because obviously you've had that rough sort of patch of form, but you're coming off a very big result away at Stoke after coming off 2 losses before that. So you need to build on that and get back into them playoff positions, which you could do with a win, obviously depending on how results go over the weekend. But if you win, you would at least temporarily be back, I believe, into 4th place for the time being. So it shows you how close this league is, by the way. But as far as Borough go, I think this is another opportunity for them to continue building on their form. So that win against Derby can't really go underestimated with how good of a run Derby have been on. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them get a win here. Obviously, they need to keep touch with Coventry the best they can. Seems like an impossible task at the minute for everyone, but obviously as well, more importantly, staying away from Millwall, Stoke, Preston, even you, etc., because you'd only go 2 points behind them if you were to win this game. So then puts you somehow in automatic promotion contention along with Millwall, Stoke, and Preston. So how that's happened, I don't know. Shows you how mental this league is. But yeah, I don't know. I think your big issue is going to be stopping this Middlesbrough side, I think, because I don't know if it comes down to just outscoring someone. don't know if you're going to be able to outscore Middlesbrough.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Hellberg likes to play with that attacking sort of fluidity, doesn't he? And sort of structure the build-up play and really go at teams. I like the way that he's gonna. I like the way he sort of sets his team up. And Middlesbrough are set in a prime. They're in a prime position to sort of carry that style on, if you like. Yeah, it'll be a tough game for us this weekend. I think if we just need to get a hold of the likes of Hackney and Whittaker and just make sure that we can not let them control the game. And I think it's a real key game for Lundstrom this weekend. I think if he's going to come back in there and start the game and really put a commanding presence on in the middle of the park, I think I would start with Ajayi and Egan at centre half again. I know that Charlie Hughes was out obviously last week against Stoke and apparently had a little tweak of the hamstring, so I'm not sure if he's just going to walk straight back in. I think with the way that Ajayi and Egan played against Stoke, I wouldn't be averse to having them start the game. To sort of try and quell that Middlesbrough attack. It's a big and the big physical players, and I think that coming up against that sort of fluid attacking style that Middlesbrough have got, I think that could be detrimental to their attacking play with Ajayi and Egan in the back four. Real interesting tie to open the weekend here. I think it was a really, really tough one to call. I am confident though. Given the fact that we've got these big players coming back in on the bench. I think that it'll boost morale around the team. It'll boost confidence knowing that they're back around the first team and potentially even getting on the pitch. So I think we might edge Middlesbrough out here. I might even keep them goalless. I'm going to go 1-0.
Big claim. I'm really not sure what direction to go. I think it might be a draw. I just think it's two teams who tend to score quite a decent amount of goals. And Middlesbrough have a good defensive record, you not so much. But obviously, if you put goals on the board, it'll be hard to contain. So I could see like a high-scoring draw being the outcome in this one. But we will move on to Derby versus Leicester. I just spoke about Derby and obviously the run that they've been on. But I think the more important factor of this game, and probably the headline factor of this game, is Leicester and Marti Cifuentes. Now, I believe if you watched our video last week, you'll see it was sort of our main focus of the review from last week's action. In a lot of trouble at the minute after another disappointing result. Now, obviously, we look at Derby, been on a good run of form, but maybe stalled out a bit since the injury of Carlton Morris. Obviously, only won one of the last three, lost the other two. So it'll be a tough test for Leicester. But as we said, Ollie, I don't know if it's reactionary or not, but with Leicester sat in 16th in the league and could fall even further with defeat, you have to think the pressure's really on Cifuentes to get 3 points in this one.
Yeah, it's a huge game. It's a huge game. I think they're going to struggle again. The pressure's mounting, isn't it? As you say, it's going to be. You'll be able to cut it with a knife in that place. Derby, they really need to get somebody else who can put their hand up to start scoring goals in the absence of Carlton Morris. Now, we did it with Gelhardt. Obviously, put his hand up and started scoring goals while Bernie was out, but. They need the likes of Brereton Diaz to come in now and really sort of take a claim for that number 9 spot because he's come in and not really shown much. I think he scored 1 goal all season, and that's certainly not enough. And they need to find a different way of scoring because Carlton Morris was the only one who was banging the goals in for him, and now he's injured. How do they replace that? And I think you've seen them coming up against that now in the last sort of 3 or 4 games. Where they did go on that run, where they went on the run with five wins, I believe, in a row, and then like you said, they've lost 2 of the last 3, I think. So they need to try and find a way of going back to what they were doing. And Carlton Morris was banging them goals in. Who else is going to do it? You need to look at the likes of Brereton Diaz to do it. It's an interesting tie, this one. Massive pressure for Leicester. I don't know how we're going to deal with this. Do the players are they revolting against Cifuentes? Do they want him there? It's a real tough one to call. I think if Derby win this game, then Cifuentes will probably be on the door. Yeah,
I mean, I did mention that Derby lost two of the last 3. The win was against Swansea, so that doesn't count. Look, as you said with Morris, I think we've sort of seen. I think it's Salverson who stepped into that role. Since Morris's absence when he did score against us. And Aguiman did get a goal at Middlesbrough on the weekend. So
They just need to do it consistently, don't they? These guys, that's the thing.
That's what I mean. I mean, like, if you look at the three forwards, it is Aguiman, Burton Diaz, and Salverson. They sort of play with Aguiman and Burton Diaz sat in behind Salverson. Aguiman 3 goals, Burton Diaz 1 goal, Salverson 2 goals. Morris has more than all of them combined. So it speaks volumes about how important Carlton Morris was to this team. You know, it's hard to replace a player of that sort of quality. Do I think Salverson is that guy? No. Do I think Aguiman and Burton Diaz are that? No. I don't think they're more than 10 goal season strikers in this division. I really don't. I mean, Aguiman and Burton Diaz barely played up front, and Salverson's not really shown anything to me. Well, you know, he scored against us, but it was a very easy goal for him in the end. It was more or less 5 yards out with a free shot on the keeper, so you know, should be scoring them. But yeah, as far as Leicester goes, you said, I mean, Cifuentes is in danger. You know, I really can't see a world where he survives another defeat here. You know, you look at the Norwich win, I think he should have gone after that, even though they won the game, because it was so unconvincing beating a team that bad. You know, they then come and beat Stoke, you think, okay, maybe it wasn't that bad. But then, you know, a battering at Southampton, and what was a pretty poor, you know, it was a drubbing for a while at home Sheffield United until, you know, they crept back in slightly at the end. But yeah, I don't know. I just think with Derby, they need to reclaim that form, as you said, but I've really struggled to see the 3 attacking options stepping up to at least to even close of the level that Carlton Morris was showing in the opening stages of the season, which really puts a dent in Derby's sort of hopes this year, I think, because if it is as long term as they expect it to, I don't know if it's been announced how long he's actually out for yet. I think they said it wasn't potentially season ending, but they'd say the assessment is whether they will see him again this season. It's obviously quite a severe injury to what he had. So if that is more or less the whole season without him, I don't know about you, Ollie, but I can't see the options they have becoming that sort of goal threat that Morris was.
That's it. They're just not consistent enough. And if they can put their hands up and raise the game and get 5 or 6 goals in 5 or 6 games, then great. Then they're doing what they need to do. But you've alluded to the fact that there's not a great deal of quality in there already. And I think if they had that quality, would have probably seen it by now. I think coming up against a side like Leicester this weekend, who are going to be, depending on how they turn up, it depends if the squad are actually wanting Cifuentes there or not, or if they're playing to get him out. They need to be looking at their strikers as well. It's a very similar sort of pattern there. The likes of Ayew, he's not scoring enough goals for him. You know, Fatau, I know he's a winger, but he's coming in. He's only got 3 goals this season. It's not enough for a team like Leicester, who've come down from the Premier League, who essentially, with the amount of money they've got and the quality they've got in this side, should not be in the position they're in. They just shouldn't be down there. And reality is they are. And they, for what it's worth, they probably are better away from home than they are at home. And they draw too many games at home. They tend to win a lot more away. So going to Derby this weekend, I think it's the battle of which striker can actually put their hands up and score a goal, take an actual grasp of this game, and prove worthy in this division, really, because I think it's a sort of battle of indifference, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, look, especially with Aguiman, you know, with the money they spent on that sort of play, you know, you'd want a return, and they're not. I know he's not been bad for them, but for how much they spent on what they thought was going to be their out-and-out striker, to be outdone by a free agent, it's not ideal, really, is it? But we will soon see if any of them can step up to the challenge with a big game at home to Leicester this weekend. But we will go to our next game, which is Ipswich versus Coventry. Now, probably the biggest game this week, because we sort of spoke up for this week. We've recorded. It's not the best slate of games this week, we have to say. But this is a very, very interesting game. So obviously, this is sort of the league leaders versus what we all thought the league leaders would be in Ipswich and Coventry. Obviously, Ipswich now up to 7th, climbing up the table after a very solid run of form. Coventry, as we know, absolutely running away with it. There is a big gap between these two teams. You know, you're talking, I believe it was like 16 points in between these two teams in the league. So, Ollie, what do we think? Obviously, I'm not saying Ipswich are title contenders by any stretch of the imagination, but is this sort of last chance saloon to be able to put any fight to climb in anywhere near Coventry this year?
Given the way the league's going, who knows? Everybody's beating everybody. It's such a ridiculous division. It usually is anyway, but this season it just seems like it's just like it is normally, but on steroids. Ipswich will have been disappointed, massively disappointed, and it's disappointed. It's an understatement to have backed that fine run of form they had with a defeat at Oxford. You know, to go there and no one expected that on the run of form they were on, especially with their away form. They were playing so well. You were starting to think that you're seeing the real Ipswich now, with the real Kieran McKenna side, proper football. And for some reason, they've just stuttered against an Oxford side who were absolutely desperate for a win. And, fair play to Oxford for getting it. And yeah, I mean, there's only one team in this division at the moment who seems to want to take a full grip of it, and that is Coventry, isn't it? We spoke about them briefly. Spoke about them a lot last week, about how there are only so many superlatives we can say about Coventry. They're an elite side. They're going to be spoken about for years about how good they are in this division and how they've just romped it, because you cannot see where they're faltering. I know they lost to Wrexham, but it seems to have given them a kick up the backside, and they've just motored on again. And they're certainly scoring goals again. They're not conceding a great deal of goals. I know they conceded a couple to Middlesbrough, but you'd expect that. Massive game this weekend for Ipswich, more so. I think it's a real, like you said, it's a real sort of credential buster. If they can go there and, if Coventry go to Ipswich this weekend and win, that's it, innit? There's no catching them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's that. I think we could just pretty much wrap it up and call it a day if they get the win there. But I mean, looking at the Coventry form, it's ridiculous. 3-1, 1-0, 3-2, 4-2, 3-1. They just can't stop this team scoring goals. 50 goals in 18 games. What? I don't understand. They're averaging 2.8 goals a game this season. 2.8. The next closest is you at 1.7, just for context, and how different that is. Ipswich also tied on 1.7. So technically, it's the two.
And I think we're entertaining to watch. So imagine what it's like going down to the CBS and seeing that every week. Honestly,
it's ridiculous. Good value for money. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I think this is sort of basically the be-all and end-all for Ipswich if they want to be any form of contending for that league title this year. If they lose this game, it's done. Coventry are going to run away with it, because the only team I can see being able to be consistent enough to catch them is Ipswich. And then, they do something like that and they go lose Oxford, and it's like, what is going on in this league? You can't call anything anymore. So the only consistent thing that's been in this league all season is Coventry win every game, or very, very most of their game. And look at their run of form. Since the 27th of September, they've won every single game bar that Wrexham game. There's no draws in there either. Every game they have won. And you're looking at 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, and then the results I just listed as well. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it in terms of a team just this free scoring in the Championship and winning this many games. And no draws, no losses, bar one. They're just winning, constantly winning. So I can't see Ipswich doing it. I can't back them against this Coventry side. I can't back anyone against this Coventry side. This Ipswich team would be the team I'd have the most faith in to go and beat them probably, and I can't back them at all. So it should be a very entertaining game though, with the two highest scoring teams in the league. Mm-hmm. So obviously Coventry are much more of a higher level with 20 more goals than Ipswich, but that's how big the gap is.
How do they stop it though? How do Ipswich stop it? And how what sort of style do Ipswich play to try and counter? How do you even counter 50 goals in the season in 18 games? You can't, can you? There's just no way you can do it. So Ipswich is just a free hit for Ipswich, really. I mean, we thought about it at the start of the season, and I don't think anybody put Coventry in the top two from our predictions, and I think that's pretty much across the board from all the predictions I've seen. Everybody put them as a solid playoff contender, granted, but nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw them grabbing the league by the scruff of the neck and just running away with it. And there is no stopping them for me. And we're at risk of becoming a Coventry podcast, but there's not. What more can you talk about when they're so good? And they've got quality all over the park. Like I've said before, they lose Thomas Asante to injury, and Hadji Wright as a falling off, and Ellis Sims just steps up, starts scoring goals for fun, and the quality in that squad that Lampard's got, and fair play to him for the job he's doing, is incredible. You just got to doff your cap to him. There's nothing more you can say. They're just an incredible side who will probably carry on going out every weekend and winning, and they'll probably finish the season on 120 points.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I just don't see it. So we don't want to be a Coventry podcast because, you're not here for that. But as I said, there's not very much, especially at the top end of the table. That's the main focus of everything, is Coventry just that good. Reflects on our episodes, if you notice, which titles a Coventry theme. They seem to do the best. So, look, it's ridiculous, and just I don't see a world how Ipswich can defend
That's it.
that sort of goal
I
scoring.
think for Ipswich, it may well be the case of do they just go all out attack and do they focus on the likes of, bringing Philogene and Clark in and Hurst and just going at them and using them overlaps with like Leif Davis coming in off that flank. Do they go for it? Do they just try and go for it and try and outscore Coventry? I know it's a ridiculous concept to say because of the amount of goals Coventry score, but
it's a good idea in hindsight.
What's the alternative? What's the alternative? Do they just sit and let Coventry attack them, which Coventry will score? They just do.
There's no alternative. There's no way to do it, and I think it's just you have to accept quickly. There's no way to stop this team, and it's just you have to get lucky on the day and hope they aren't at the races themselves, rather than what you can do to protect yourselves, to not let them run away with it. But to avoid, as we said, to avoid this being a Coventry podcast, we'll move on to Sheffield United versus Stoke City. Now, obviously, Stoke in a bit of a weird run. Obviously, they've lost 3 of the last 5 games, but they are still 4th in the league, still only 3 points behind Middlesbrough. Sheffield United, however, on a very good run of form, winning their last 3 games on the spin, putting them out of the relegation zone and now 2 points clear of the drop zone away from Portsmouth. So Sheffield United finally finding that form, Ollie, but is it going to be enough to take down a very, very good Stoke team?
Another tough game to call for me. Like Sheffield United, one of the form sides in the league on recent form. I think Wilder's finally getting these players to click a little bit. I mean, it took them long enough, but seems to finally getting them to click. I think maybe that catalyst was the win away at Hillsborough. We expected it to be a tighter affair from what it was, and it wasn't, and they went there and blew them away. I'm wondering if that's maybe a catalyst that sort of set their season alight a little bit for Wilder. I think you look at the players that they've got around there at the moment who are playing well. O'Hare, fantastic at the minute. Tyrese Campbell playing really, really well. It's down to Stoke to sort of quell these, to quell this down. Stoke have got a tough battle on their hands here. I was impressed with Stoke first half against us last week. Thought they were absolutely brilliant. We've mentioned Sorba Thomas so many times in this podcast. His goal was an absolute thunder bastard. What a strike! You never really seen a cleaner volley. Beautiful, but they just didn't come out at halftime. They didn't come out at halftime, and they came in. They came out and just went right. I think we've probably done enough here. They can't afford to do that in the Championship, especially against the resurgent Sheffield United side this weekend. I don't know. I think it's a tough game to call. I'm going to sit on the fence with this one. I'm going to probably go for a draw.
Yeah. It's again, for as much as not the best week, it's a hard week to call, that's for sure. We sort of said it with Stoke. They're just weirdly inconsistent because they build on form, they look really good, and then obviously, if they're having a tough run, I think the losses at Coventry is forgivable, especially how close they kept that game. Leicester, maybe not so much. Hull, again, probably should have won based on the first half, but let off the gas and then let them back into the game. So, but again, a forgivable loss considering the league position of the team. So it's a weird team to call with how good they actually are. Obviously, they're sat in 4th, so they've got to be half decent. You don't get to that point without being at least a solid side. Sheffield United are finally clicking. When we said it was going to happen, we said they were never going to go down. It was always going to be a case of when does it click, and it's finally done that now. No losses in the last 4 games. Again, you have to question the opposition. Obviously, QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, Portsmouth, and Leicester. Not brilliant teams in there. So this is their first proper test since being on this run of form. First team they're playing basically above 13th in the league in this run. So it's a big test for them to come out and show whether they really are clicking now, or maybe it was just they played a few bad sides and got good results because obviously quality prevails and they win them games. So Stoke, for me, have to win if they want to keep in touch with the automatic promotion spots. I think that's sort of written in stone now that these teams from sort of 2nd to like 9th or 10th are all going to be competing for 2nd rather than 1st. So with Ipswich creeping down, creeping up the table, with Southampton getting results here and there, with other teams that we thought would be good, Birmingham, for example, creeping up as well, I think, it provides a problem to teams like Stoke, Preston, etc., even Middlesbrough, who had that gap. But the more these results don't come, the smaller that gap gets, and it becomes troublesome very quickly. So I think Stoke know they have to win. But as you said, I don't know if I can back against a Sheffield United team based on the run of form that they're on.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you will say is that this is the sort of game now that if Stoke have got real promotion credentials, this is the sort of game that they should be going there and winning. And if they've got that character in the side, that Robin should have, well, you would have expected him to put in, especially given his interviews after games. I just think you would expect Stoke to come out firing this weekend and try and back that performance up at the weekend with a result here at Sheffield United. They don't concede many goals, Stoke. We know that. They're defensively sound. Sheffield United haven't been scoring many, but until recently they've started scoring goals. So I think it's going to be a bit of a balanced game. This I really can't separate them. I think it'll be a tough game, real cagey affair. 1-1, 0-0 maybe. I can't separate these two.
As you said, Stoke don't concede many goals, and Sheffield United are on a very good run of form in terms of scoring goals. But yeah, I just don't know if I can. As I said, I might sit on the fence with you as well with a draw. Stoke know they need to win, but at the same time, Sheffield United also don't want to fall back into the trouble zone again. Now they finally climbed away from it. They want to keep building and building away and look sort of more up towards the playoffs. Can we get in there rather than, oh no, they're creeping up behind us? So obviously with big games at the bottom, which we'll get on to, like Swansea Oxford this weekend, one of them teams should win. So therefore that's another team in that sort of danger zone who will climb up if they don't win. So it'll be interesting, but I think, I'm going to sit with you and agree on probably a narrow draw in what should be a very tough game for both sides. Speaking of tough games, Southampton versus Birmingham is our next game that we're going to look at. Now, obviously, Southampton were absolutely firing since the second of Will's still, but hit their first sort of blip with a 3-2 loss at Millwall, thanks to, I believe it was a very last-minute goal from Tristan Kramer in that one to seal the 3 points for Millwall and give Southampton their first loss since Eckert took over as the interim. Birmingham finding much better form at the minute, 3 wins in the last 5, won 2 of the last 3, and obviously drew at West Brom, but obviously that win against Watford and a 4-1 win against Norwich before that. So Birmingham in a much better run of form. They're now climbing up the table. They're now into 8th place, and a win would likely put them in the playoffs by the end of the week. So are we finally seeing that Birmingham team we all thought, Ollie, and is Tonderecker... I suppose the biggest test for Tonderecker is can he respond to a defeat, because we've not seen them lose a game under him yet.
Yeah, I mean, Birmingham looking quite ominous. The one thing I will say about Birmingham is they need to take their home form away. It's the same old story for Birmingham. They're not winning away. And St Mary's is one of the toughest places in the league to go to, isn't it? Would you put that defeat down at Millwall last week as a blip? Maybe they were in the game right until the end. I know they came from behind a couple of times to stay in the game, but Millwall obviously outfought them in the end, which is a typical Millwall thing to do. I think for Birmingham, they just need to take that that home form away and see if they can actually get a result this weekend. Be a real testament if they can go down to St Mary's and get a result, and people will really start to look at their credentials for potential playoff / even automatic shout. But I don't know. I just think with the quality Southampton have got in that team, the likes of Armstrong, Howard Bellis, Finn Azaz is playing really, really well at the moment. Good side at home, decent run of form. I think it's going to be a tough ask for Birmingham to go there this weekend and turn that home form away.
I mean, I just looked at it. The last 6 away games, Birmingham, they've won 1.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal. But then obviously, you look at their last 6 home games, they've won 4.
They've only lost once.
Bar 1. There's only one they've lost in the last 6.
I don't know.
There's only one they've lost in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I don't know. I can't see it on my thing, unfortunately. But yeah, look, as you said, Southampton. I'm very intrigued because the biggest thing with interims is they always seem to have this spell, the new manager bounce, whatever you want to call it. But they win a few games and then they hit a wall and it goes wrong. So the question is this going to be the same thing with Eckert where it hits a wall and it goes wrong, or is he going to win? I think if he wins this game, for me, he proves enough that he should be the manager because he can get them back after a loss, a tough loss as well. That's surely to break confidence a bit and take it in to beat one of the better teams in the division. I think it would be a big statement from Eckert to be like, I deserve this job. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got the job after a win here. But it's a tough ask to turn a team around after a loss like that in the 97th minute. Birmingham as well, going to be full of confidence after a good run of form for them. But maybe a bit lacking on the away confidence because obviously not had many good away results recently. So, as you said, they've just got to transform that away form back into what their home form looks like. Because if you look at home form in this league, they're miles above most teams. They're second in the division, only outdone by Coventry, and that's only by 3 points. So that's a very impressive record. But then obviously you look to the away form, and Birmingham are struggling a bit more. So I don't know. I just think Southampton are a good side. I mean, Birmingham away from home, by the way, 21st in the Championship, but second on home form. So it shows you the glaring issue they have. Only 8 points away from home this season, somehow less than Swansea. So that's bad.
Wow, that's saying a lot, isn't it?
That is saying a lot. But yeah, look, I think Southampton need a win here. Eckert needs a win to keep his hopes of this job intact, because if this spirals into a bad run of games, you almost rule him out straight away. But as you said, I really struggle to see Birmingham going into Southampton with their away form being so poor and getting a result. I don't know if I can see it.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to depend on how Birmingham approach this game. Because if they approach it like they do with the away games that they've previously done, then they're going to come away with a defeat. They need to focus on that possession style play that they've got, I think, for me, and that aggressive pushing on from the front, the likes of Stansfield and what's his name, midfielder scored at the weekend. Pick. Real aggressive front foot style play, and when you've not got the ball, even just getting in the face and trying to make these teams make mistakes. I think that's a style that they need to take away from St Andrews and to really give themselves a chance for playoffs. The likes of we've spoke about it earlier a few times this season. They're still not getting the best out of a lot of players they brought in. Kyogo Furuhashi, for example, still not scoring goals. This needs to happen. They need to start doing that away from home. If he just needs a goal to go in off his backside, doesn't he? Something like that to give him that little confidence boost, and that could be what turns Birmingham's potential playoff push into an actual promotion charge. I struggle to see them breaking Southampton down this weekend. I think it's probably an ask too far for them. But looking at their fixtures, they've got QPR coming up next after that. That could be the one where they could take that away, where they could take that home form away. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a tough game out either way. Tough one to call, but I think Southampton just edge it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you, to be honest. As you said, it's just a case of that away form. I just can't really, it's hard to back a team with only 2 wins away from home this entire season. But I am worried about Southampton if they can bounce back from that loss, because as I've said it so many times with interims, the amount of times it can go catastrophically wrong if you're not careful, it's not great. So yeah, I'll back Southampton, I think, but I wouldn't be surprised Birmingham get a win away based on interim track records returning results around after a loss. But finally, unfortunately, we have to talk about Swansea apparently, as I've been told, because there's no other good games this week, unfortunately. It is also a big game in the grand context of things, not in the way I would have hoped at the start of the year, that we'd be playing Oxford in a game that actually mattered in terms of relegation, but here we are. It's 21st versus 20th in the league. Obviously, we're 21st, Oxford 20th. Look, I think we've lost our last 5 games in a row. Oxford, a bit more preferable run. Obviously, they had their huge win at Ipswich in their last game. So for them, that's it's a massive result. And again, a team that's not lost in 3 games to play a team who's not won in 5. I think Oxford are the favourites here, Ollie, to be honest.
I don't know about favourites. I think favourites is I think it's a very optimistic word to be using in 21st against 23rd. Yeah, I mean, obviously unbeaten in 3. Yeah, great. I mean, fantastic win against Ipswich. Nobody expected that. Nobody saw that come in. Really, it's a 6-pointer, this one. As much as you don't want to talk about it being a 6-pointer at this sort of stage of the season, 19 games in, this is a 6-pointer. Swansea need to win. Swansea need to win this game. Oxford, maybe not so much. Nobody expects Oxford to do any good this season. To be fighting relegation is probably where you'd expect them to be. Swansea not. They're not. They're the sort of teams you want to be looking at, mid-table to top end. Have we lost James?
No.
We're not lost, James. Just dipped
No,
off a little bit. You got fed up with listening to
more.
Swansea.
I am, yeah.
Be interesting game. If Oxford can go there and really put the pressure on Swansea. You know, we like some Lanarkshire and Brannigan and Mark Harris scoring goals. It's really tough ask. Really tough ask for Oxford to go anywhere in the Championship and get a result. But they're backing up. They're backing up on a run of, you know, they could potentially go 4 unbeaten here and back-to-back wins if they get a result. Swansea need to win. They just need to win. They can't even draw this game. They can't afford to draw this game. They need to win it.
We have to win, you're right. I mean, as you said, I would never have expected, with our net spend this summer being as what it was, the second highest of the Championship, it was all very exciting going into this year, and it's ultimately not panned out in the way that we expected. You know, this is a team extremely low on confidence. Alan Sheehan largely to blame for that, with his run in charge, obviously drained the confidence out of these players. I mean, I've never seen so many expensive signings look so poor. I mean, Adam Eder's been nowhere near it. It was £7 million. You know, even like the signings like Inusa, who we were very excited by, not hit the levels that we expected. And for me at the minute, it's just the bare minimum of they don't look bothered. Like, there's so many issues in this team, but the bare minimums aren't there. And there's nothing you can coach. It has to happen. You know, you can coach all your tactics, you can do whatever you want, but the bare minimum of just caring and wanting to win and, you know, the determination, you can't teach it. You cannot instill that in a football. If they don't have it, they don't have it. And that's my big concern at the minute. I think, you know, I don't think this team's as good as people thought it was, including me. I thought this team was way better on paper than what it's actually turned out to be. I think we've got so many players off the level. You know, just list off like the likes of Ronald, Cullen, Fulton, etc. They're nowhere near Championship level, in my opinion, absolutely miles off it. But then I'd rather play someone like Fulton at the minute because he actually cares than someone, you know, like Stamenic who's off form and maybe isn't showing it as much. So, yeah.
We speak about grit and determination all the time, being your bread and butter, don't we? It's what we speak. What we mentioned about Sheffield Wednesday this season so far. I mentioned it earlier in the podcast about Hull City's performance away at Stoke last week. This is your bread and butter. This is what it comes down to. It comes down to caring. And you're right. If you don't have that, then you're in big trouble. I think for Matos, his main challenge here is he just needs to simplify it. Go back to basics. Make yourself hard to beat, especially against a team like Oxford, who, all right, they're going to be relatively high on confidence after that win against Ipswich, I know. But for Swansea, they just need to go back to basics here. Really, really go back to basics. Make yourselves hard to beat and try and nick a goal.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we lose this game, we're probably in the relegation zone. And it's the first time since we've been relegated, I've been scared of actually going down. I think it's a real possibility. I don't think we're one of them teams who you should just say, oh, they'll climb eventually, because we might not. We really might not with how we've been playing. You look at West Brom, for example. We start the game so well. I was so impressed. You know, 2 goals in 11 minutes. We're absolutely flying. Second half, we come out, they even have a shot, and we lose 3-2. That's not acceptable. You cannot do that in a Championship game.
Very similar to what you did against us, wasn't it, earlier in the season when you thought the game was done and you come out second half and it stopped tying up?
5 losses in a row. I mean, you know, we had some big ones there. 4-1 to Ipswich, 3-0 to Bristol City. And these next 2 games, we've got Portsmouth as well on Tuesday, are massive because, you know, we've got Stoke, Wrexham and Coventry after that. I don't see any points there. So to get these games out of the way and just get points on the board is massive. You know, we need to get 9 points out of December at the absolute minimum, and that being beating Oxford twice and beating Portsmouth. I don't think that's negotiable. I think you have to win them games. Matos, I feel bad for him. The squad is rubbish, and he's just been thrown into an absolute mess of a situation. His backroom staff still aren't in. Well, yeah, they are in Swansea, but can't work yet because they haven't got international clearance. He's been appointed for 2 weeks and can't even work with his own staff. You know, as much as I love Leon Britt and Joe Allen, they're not experienced coaches, which is what we need in this situation. And again, you know, we need more football people in the building. As much as Tom Gorringe at CEO has been great at getting in the sort of commercial side of things, you know, Adam Worth, as head of recruitment's recruited a pile of rubbish, to put it politely, with our transfer window this summer, bar Ethan Galbraith. Really, he's the only one I can give massive credit to at the minute for being superb, because he is an unbelievable footballer. But yeah, look, this has to be a win. I think it's as simple as that. We have to win this game, otherwise it's serious trouble. Because I as I said, it's the first time, Ollie, I've actually been concerned that we are in a relegation battle.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think these are the games now where it's crunch time for Swansea. Your next 2 games, if you can put together 2 wins, which you've not done all season, it's It's a big ask, but it's
Thanks,
doable,
Martin.
isn't it? Because the championship is that division. And you look at the likes of Sheffield United who have been down there, even the likes of Southampton who were down there with false positions, granted, but this could potentially change Swansea's season for the better, couldn't it? You win against Oxford this weekend, you win against Portsmouth, and all of a sudden, you're not looking over your shoulder anymore. You're looking at the playoffs. That's how close this division is. So all it takes is them couple of wins to get that confidence building up, get your team playing together a little bit more, getting that belief back into the building, and going from there. I'm trying to be the optimist. I'm trying to play devil's advocate for you a little bit, but
you're not getting any optimism from me.
You need to start off and look at that Oxford game and pinpoint that and think, right, we must win this game at all costs. We go all out. We try and win this game. If we don't win this game, big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, do I think we're going to win this game? No, I don't. I can't back us. I think realistically, I think 1-1. I think we'll draw.
The run's got to stop, hasn't it? This run of defeats has to stop.
That's the bare minimum we can't lose. At the absolute minimum, we can't lose. But
absolutely,
we just have to win. I mean, look, one thing as well with the fans, why have we sold out Wrexham at home and we've got 14,000 tickets sold? I think for this game, something like that. Why? Why? Fans just turn up for the flashy rubbish. Who cares? It's Wrexham. You're not going to bump into Ryan Reynolds if you turn up to the game.
This is the big game.
You're not going to see Snoop Dogg. You're not going to see Snoop Dogg. Don't care if you say you're not going to bump into him in the bloody railway in the pub before the game. So, look, to turn up about the boys. I wish I could do it. I live so far away. It's not possible for me. But if you live in Swansea and you're a Swansea fan, please get down to this game on Saturday because the boys need it more than ever. Confidence is low, and the last thing they need is an empty stadium full of negativity to go into in one of the biggest games of the year. So please, for a Swansea fan, you live in Swansea, get down to the game and support the boys.
I want to go now. After that, I want to get the train down there.
God, but we'll move on to the other results from the fixtures, I should say, from this upcoming weekend of action. As we said, not the most interesting, so I'm sure this won't take very long. But we'll start with Charlton-Portsmouth. Obviously, Charlton on a pretty dire run of form, all things considered. 4 losses on the spin now. Portsmouth, obviously, just fell into that relegation zone. So you have to feel for Portsmouth, Ollie. It's a big chance for them to maybe get out because with a Charlton team who are very much there for the taking at the minute.
Absolutely there for the taking. They need another team who needs to get a win. They've just fallen away, haven't they? Portsmouth quietly as well. I think they were sort of started off relatively indifferently. Looked like a team who were never really looking like they were going to be in danger, but all of a sudden found themselves in the bottom 3. Yeah, tough game to call again with the Championship. It's ridiculous, but both teams are in a really, really poor run. I can't see either of them edging this game. I think it'll be a draw.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I agree. Charlton need to end this run of losses quick because they're slowly slipping down the table and towards trouble as well after what was a very, very positive start to the year. But Portsmouth need a win to climb out of the drop zone. I mean, a draw could be enough. If we lose, obviously, they'd get out with an extra point. So a point would be a decent result for them, I think, away at Charlton. It's still not an easy place to go despite their recent run of results. So I think a draw is a fair assumption to make there. Watford versus Norwich. Obviously, the big story last week was Norwich getting their first win of the season against QPR, which I did call, by the way. No one else did. Watford coming in off a loss to Birmingham, but still a very decent run of form for Watford. They finally sort of found that click, but too many draws, I think, has been their issue. So 3 draws out of the last 5, Ollie. Another one here?
4 out of the last 6. Yeah, there's no splitting these. So I think Norwich will get a little bit of confidence from that first opening win of the first home opening win of the season, which is crackers to say that we're nearly 20 games into the season. They've only won once at home. Watford is so difficult to call. I've said it so many times this season. You don't know what side's going to turn up when Watford take to that grass. I don't know. I'm not going to separate either of these teams. I think it'll be a draw.
Yeah, I think I agree. Also, it's the first time Norwich didn't lose at home, I think, bar the Oxford game. That broke the losing duck, and then obviously QPR broke the no wins duck for them. So, yeah, I think they have the confidence flowing there. Watford will be a bit knocked after their run of sort of 4 or 5 games unbeaten was ended away at Birmingham. I'm not saying it's the most demoralising loss because obviously, as proven, it's been a very difficult place to go this year. So I think they want to bounce back at home in front of their home fans as well. But Norwich obviously know the situation they're in. if we're looking at teams like Portsmouth potentially being able to win and Swansea playing Oxford, that gap could open up a bit to Norwich if they're not careful and they don't get a result here. So I think I'll go with the draw, but Norwich definitely need to get points on the board quickly. Blackburn versus Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, we saw Sheffield Wednesday hit with their -6 deduction again, which puts them on -10. So as if it wasn't done already. No, I don't think it matters that they've added an extra 6. I don't really see how it punishes them at all. But it's pretty much confirmed now they are relegated to League One. Blackburn, obviously, coming off a result on the whole controversial replay at Ipswich where they got conceded in the 94th minute, Ollie, after saying the whole basis for claiming the win in the first game was Ipswich wouldn't have scored. I know it was 10 men.
You couldn't write it, could you?
It was a 10-man Ipswich, but just saying their point was they wouldn't have scored in the last minute, and then they score a 94th minute goal to equalise and get a point. So interesting. But they go home to Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, as much as Blackburn have been a weird team to call, Sheffield Wednesday have a pretty performance at Preston, but do you still see Blackburn coming away with this one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the one thing you'll say about Sheffield Wednesday, we say about it every week, really, they can go into every game with pressure off. No one expects anything from them. So it's just, you've got literally a group of players who can go out there, try and enjoy the football as much as they possibly can, knowing that there's no pressure on them to win the games because they're not expected to do it. So they can go to every single game and just pressure off. Let's see what we can do this week. Let's see if we can cause an upset. Blackburn are such a strange side to call. They're so hot and cold as well. But I fancy them to have too much for Sheffield Wednesday this week.
Yeah, I think I agree. I struggle to see Sheffield Wednesday now. I did say they're not going to win a game until January, so I don't want them to not win one, but I just don't think they will. I don't want to make it out like I hate Sheffield Wednesday because I don't. I can't see them winning here. Blackburn have been all right at Ewood Park recently. I think they'll know this is a big game for them in terms of every team will go in Sheffield Wednesday saying we need to win this game, we should win this game against a team on -10 points at the bottom of the league with half their players basically being youngsters. So yeah, I think I'll back Blackburn, but I wouldn't be surprised with Sheffield Wednesday because that Preston showing was a lot better than what we've seen from them in the last couple of weeks for sure. So don't rule them out 100%. This is definitely a game that if they're going to win one, I look at this as being one of the very few that they have a chance in. Bristol City coming off their win at Portsmouth, but obviously playing a Millwall side who come off their big upset at home against Southampton. A test to travel away to Ashton Gate at a minute only, but bar that win at Swansea, again, you know what I've said about wins against Swansea in recent times. They've not been too convincing in the last 5 games, so is it a chance for Millwall to continue to build on their form for a team that's vastly inconsistent, but they're still sat 3rd in the league?
Millwall are bonkers, aren't they? It's like, no, they're just quietly going about the business and sat in 3rd in the league. I mean, if you used to ask somebody over the course of, a Championship fan who was just kind of like sort of dips in and out of the game, where are Millwall so far this season? How do you think they've gone? And people have gone, they've been fairly different. I reckon they'll be about 12th.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they're 3rd in the league. How are they doing it? It's weird.
I think you said with most teams, maybe the same story with where they are in the league and what people
That's true enough, yeah, with the Championship. Yeah. I just think Millwall are that stereotypical Championship club, middle of the road type side, but they're doing well this season. They've given themselves a real chance, and I can see them going down to Ashton Gate and grinding out a win this weekend.
I wouldn't be surprised. Bristol City have not been convincing at all. As I said, against us they were, but I think we could have played a League 2 team out there and we would have struggled. So we were so bad at Ashton Gate, it was unbelievable. So I didn't read into it too much, and they've struggled since then. So it's an interesting one for sure. I'd be intrigued to see how this one goes. I think a draw is likely, but I don't think it'll be high scoring by any stretch of the imagination based on both these teams' results. But other than again, Mill will come up with a 3-2 win against Southampton, so you don't know. But yeah, I could see it as well. To be fair, with Millwall, with them obviously, a chance to go into automatic promotion spots if Middlesbrough slip up. So yeah, I'd like them in that one, 100%. Preston versus Wrexham. Obviously, we've spoken about Wrexham a lot, but 1 goal conceded in the month of November, I believe, is a superb effort in the Championship. And it literally came in their last game against Blackburn. Their first goal they conceded the entire month. Preston, though, obviously flying in the top 6 in the Championship at the minute. But obviously, Sheffield Wednesday was a win, but as we said, not the most convincing of wins. So what do we think here, Ollie?
I fancy Wrexham. I really do. The last podcast that you did with Chris, you were talking about all the red in the top 10. There's one team in the top 10 without any red, and that's Wrexham. Wrexham are just going about their business. They're slowly building a potential push at the playoffs. I think they can go down to Deepdale this weekend and steal a win.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Bar Coventry, we'll say about your top 10 thing, because obviously they don't count anymore.
No, there's the one in there. There was that L. The fifth game was an L.
Was it?
Or was it six? Was it six? Am I looking at six games? I'm looking at six. I'm looking at six.
Fine, because technically the normal form thing is 6, so I'll let you.
Normal form 6, yeah. Let me off with that. But yeah, there you go. So it's only Wrexham without it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, 100%. Wrexham have been impossible to score against, let alone beat. So they've proven to be what they needed to be, was a tough team to beat. And Parkinson's doing a fantastic job. And I think it'll continue as well. I think I can really see them getting a result here against the Preston side, who have been vastly inconsistent. If they conceded twice to Sheffield Wednesday, I think Wrexham could have a good chance of scoring a couple of goals in this one. But finally, we have QPR versus West Brom. Sort of spoken about it a bit, Ollie, but obviously West Brom coming off their big comeback win against Swansea. Shock. QPR... no, I feel like everything's about Swansea. Everyone's beating us. Like if you've had a rubbish run of form, you've probably played us and you've won. But QPR coming off obviously a very disappointing loss to Norwich, who given them their first home win of the season, they're going to want to bounce back. But do you think they will against West Brom at home?
They've got an identical record in the division. These two, 18-7-4-7. That's what they've got so far, and I think that continues. It'll be 19-7-5-7. That'd be a draw this weekend between these two.
Yeah, we'll keep a bit of symmetry.
Let's just keep it going as we've started. 12 against 13. There's naught to separate these two. I don't think anything will separate them this weekend. I think it'll be a really boring 0-0. Yeah,
West Brom are there for the taking. Obviously, conceding to us 2 quick goals, and we had chances in the first half. But yeah, I'm just still not convinced by. So I think I'm going to agree with you and go with a draw in that one. But that is all we have for you for this week's episode. So as always, we will be back with our review next week. But thank you very much to Ollie for joining me as always, and we will see you all for our next episode.
Thank you very much.